One of the best ways to expand your vocabulary is by learning new words in a sentence. So you can quickly and easily see how that word is being used and understand the grammatical structure as well. And that's exactly what we'll do with this Learn English with the News lesson. Welcome back to JForrest English. I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started.
First, I'll read the headline, Trump Indictments. A very simple guide to his 4 big legal cases. In this article, don't worry, we'll discuss what an indictment is and the implications for Donald Trump. For now, just notice that pronunciation, indictments. So here, this pronunciation, indictments. So I crossed out the C because you don't hear it in pronunciation. Trump Indictments, a very simple guide to his 4 big legal cases. In this sense, big means important or significant. They're important legal cases. They're significant legal cases. So they're big, not necessarily the physical size, but the importance. Now, don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF, and you can find the link in the description. Let's continue. Former President Donald Trump is facing dozens of criminal charges. Here, dozens. What's 1 dozen? 1 dozen is 12. 12 is 1 dozen. So this is a common size when maybe you're buying some buns, cinnamon buns. Ooh, delicious. You're buying cinnamon buns and you can ask for a dozen cinnamon buns. Now you can say a dozen or 1 dozen, but you can't just say I'll have dozen cinnamon buns. You need either a, the article a, which represents 1, or you need 1. I'll have 1 dozen. I'll have a dozen cinnamon buns. When you make dozen plural, it simply means a lot. So Trump is facing a lot of criminal charges, many criminal charges. You could say, I have a dozen unread emails, which means you have 12 unread emails. But if you say, I have dozens of unread emails, it means you have a lot of. So notice you need that of because it represents a lot of. It's facing dozens of criminal charges and will go on trial. When you go on trial, it simply means that the trial starts. So he will go on trial several times in the next 18 months. His legal problems are mounting. The expression here is to be mounting. The verb is, of course, be. And mounting functions as an adjective, and it simply means gradually increase. So drastic increase would be like this, and then mounting would be more of a gradual increase. For example, my excitement for my upcoming vacation has been mounting. Now notice the verb tense I used here, the present perfect, because my verb is to be and has been. That's the present perfect. And then this is my adjective, mounting. I use the present perfect because my excitement started mounting in the past and it's still mounting now. So that's the present perfect. His legal problems are mounting, gradually increasing, as he campaigns to become president again in the 2024 election. Now notice how they have the article the, because 2024 represents an adjective. It describes which election. So without the adjective, because adjectives are never required, so it would be again in election. So election is a singular countable noun, so you need an article. as he campaigns to become president again in the election, in the 2024 election. Now, if it were just the time reference, again in 2024, now this is just the time reference in the year 2024, in 2024, no article, in the 2024 election. Also notice here that campaign, what do you notice about it? He campaigns, as he campaigns to become president. This is a verb. The verb is to campaign. I know it's a verb because, for one, the placement, subject, verb, and also the fact that it has this S on it, which means it's conjugated in the present simple, as he campaigns, to campaign, to become president. I'm pointing this out because campaign is generally used as a noun, more commonly used as a noun, but you can absolutely use it as a verb. Here's an example where you see it as a noun. Can you help me with my campaign? My campaign. So this is the noun form, and then to campaign is the verb. His legal problems are mounting as he campaigns to become president again in the 2024 election. Here's a guide to what's going on. Now, I know here that they have what is going on, but orally, it would be way more natural to use the contracted form and say what's. Here's a guide to what's going on. Just like right here, we have the contraction. Generally, when you're writing, you should choose one. Either you're going to use contractions or you're not going to use contractions. And if you decide to use contractions, it's best practice that you don't change between one contraction and one no contraction. It's better to keep your style consistent. This is the contraction. Here's a guide to what's going on. Now, what's going on? This is a question that you can commonly ask in many different situations. What's going on with the campaign? If someone asks this, what's going on with the campaign? They want you to tell them the current status of the campaign and explain all the news and important information related to that campaign. So that's what they're going to do in this article. Here's a guide to what's going on. So this article is going to explain all the important information, but related to this specific topic. Now, if it's obvious that you're talking about the campaign, you don't have to repeat that. If someone says, the campaign is launching next week, then you can say, what's going on? And then they know you're talking about the campaign, but what's going on with the campaign. Before we move on, I just want to ask, are you enjoying this lesson? Do you enjoy learning English with the news? If so, I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, the news, YouTube, so you can improve your listening skills of fast English and add advanced expressions, correct grammar, natural pronunciation to your speech to help you sound fluent and natural. And you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look for more information in the description. Now let's find out what's going on. On Monday night, a prosecutor in the U.S. state of Georgia, so Georgia is a state, it's in southern U.S., the capital is Atlanta, Georgia. In the U.S. state of Georgia, laid out 13 charges against Trump in a document called an indictment. Okay, so here's a little more information about what an indictment is. It's a document that contains a formal charge And a charge is an accusation that you have done something wrong. However, it's only an accusation. At this point, Trump is considered innocent. You're always considered innocent until proven guilty. So this is simply a document that claims he has done something wrong. It doesn't mean that he has done anything wrong. Now, notice how they said laid out 13 charges. When you lay something out, it means that you explain something clearly. And we generally use this to lay something out in writing. So notice how they said they laid out the charges in a document. So the information was explained clearly in a document. If it were verbally, then perhaps they wouldn't use this expression and they would just say, and the prosecutor explained the charges to the public if it were in an interview, for example. But you can lay it out. How would you lay it out? Well, perhaps they would have charge 1 and then clearly state what that charge is. Charge 2, clearly state what that is. And then they do that all the way to charge 13. That's how you would lay something out. And remember, this is written down somewhere because we use this in writing. And where did they write it down? Well, that's the document called an indictment. Indictment. Remember that pronunciation, indictment. It's his 4th indictment of the year. Notice here, 4th is an ordinal number. So before ordinal numbers, you need an article or a possessive pronoun here. So you could say it's the 4th indictment of the year. But because the indictment belongs to Trump, they use the possessive pronoun, his. It is, that's what this contraction represents, of course. It is his 4th indictment of the year. Let's continue. He is accused of engaging in a conspiracy to steal votes cast in 2020 for Democrat Joe Biden. So notice how they use the word accused, and you accuse someone of doing something. So that's why we have this ing here, because of the preposition of. Notice the sentence structure here. In this example, he is accused of. The sentence structure is to be accused of something. This is important because in this case, accuse functions as an adjective, so it will always be in ed, but your verb is the verb to be. So you could say he was accused of. He has been accused of, but the ed would stay the same on accused. Otherwise, you can use the sentence structure to accuse someone of something. This is where the subject is doing the action. The prosecutor has accused. This is in the present perfect. This is in the present perfect. The prosecutor has accused Trump of engaging in a conspiracy. The rest of the sentence would be exactly the same. I use the present perfect simply because it's a past action, but it has a consequence in the present. So now Trump has to go to court and have this legal case. I could also simply use the past simple, the prosecutor accused Trump. But because there's a result in the present, it's more common to use the present perfect. The prosecutor has accused Trump. He's accused of engaging in a conspiracy to steal votes cast in 2020 for Democrat Joe Biden. So the votes were for Joe Biden, but apparently, because this is just an accusation, apparently Trump stole those votes. That is one of the charges that was laid out in the indictment. Let's continue. The indictment, it also accuses him to accuse someone. And notice now this is in the present simple, which I accidentally said above. This is the present simple. We know that because you see this S on it, which matches the subject. It also accuses him of repeatedly airing the false claim he had won that election. So if you air something, it means that you make it publicly available. So when someone airs a movie, it means that you can watch the movie because it's publicly available. And repeatedly, well, that means you do it again and again and again. How many times? It's not clear, but it sounds to me like it's multiple times, more than 2 times. Maybe 3 to 5, maybe 20. We don't know, but because of repeatedly, it sounds like it has happened again and again and again. It also accuses him of repeatedly airing, I wrote those out for you, repeatedly airing the false claim he had won that election. The prosecutor said these lies had fueled his supporters to attack the US Capitol in January 2021. Let's talk about why there's quotations around lies and fueled. This is because only the prosecutor said this. Now, by putting these quotation marks, it's emphasizing the fact that this has not been proven. So it's not been proven that the words were in fact a lie. And it's not been proven that they fueled these attacks. Because of that, they put the quotations on to make sure you know this is just the opinion of the prosecutor and not fact. Now, let's talk about fueled because you might not know what this is. Well, think about fuel for a car. What does that do for the car? It allows the car to go forward, right? It allows the car to progress. So it's saying like these lies fueled his supporters to attack the US Capitol. The lies allowed the supporters or made the supporters go forward with the idea of attacking the US Capitol. I wrote that there for you. The prosecutor said these lies had fueled his supporters to attack the US Capitol. Now, the US Capitol, that is where the White House is, where the seat of government is. Notice this spelling here. Pronunciation doesn't change, but generally we spell capital A-L. But here it's spelled capital. So remember, this is taking place, these charges are taking place in the state of Georgia. So you can say Atlanta is the capital of Georgia. So notice the spelling here. Capital A-L. Atlanta is the capital of Georgia. So what's the capital city in your country? Share the capital in the comments and you can use this sentence structure. So blank is the capital of, and then this is your country, and this is the capital city. So put this in the comments because I don't know all the capitals around the world. So I'd love to learn a little bit about geography as well. So share that in the comments. But when we're specifically referring to Capitol Hill, pronunciation doesn't change, but the spelling does from an A to an O. The White House is on Capitol Hill. So that's why if you saw this and you're wondering, why is it OL? That's why. Violence which made headlines around the world. If something makes a headline, it means that there was an article just like this, but the headline was violence on Capitol Hill. So that's how something makes a headline. It means that it is now in a news article and that's the headline. Okay, let's continue. Can Trump still run for president? Notice you run, the verb to run, you run for a political position. And the answer is yes. There's nothing in the US Constitution to prevent Trump from continuing his election campaign. And notice here, this campaign is a noun, and we more commonly see it as a noun, but just remember you can use it as a verb. But there are practical considerations. Well, let's find out what those are. Trials can last for weeks, 4 weeks. Just notice that, our preposition, 4 weeks. And he will be required to sit in court throughout. So he has to sit in court. He has to physically be in court. All of this will be a major drain on his time, energy, and election cash. If something is a drain on something else, it means it uses a lot of that resource. For example, fighting is a drain on. To be, because this is a gerund statement. So gerunds are conjugated as it. It is, fighting is a drain on something else. My happiness. And that's why I try to never do it. I don't like fighting with people. Why? Because it's a drain on my happiness. And why would I want that to happen? So in this case, of course, all this, what was mentioned above, all this would be a major drain. So you can use major as an adjective to make it sound a lot stronger. A major drain on his time, energy, and election cash at a time when he would prefer to be holding rallies and meeting voters. His support remains undiminished. Undiminished is an adjective. It means as good as always, as strong as always, or as important as always. Now, as an adjective, it requires a verb. So the verb is remain. Remain undiminished. Remain is the most common verb. So you need to conjugate your verb according to the subject and time reference. In this case, it's the present simple. So his support is as good as always, as strong as always, meaning that these criminal charges haven't impacted his support. Another example with remain undiminished is Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is 92. Isn't that crazy? He's 92, but his energy and intellect remain undiminished. I can say that because he still runs his company. So obviously, his intellect remains undiminished. Now notice I have remain because I have 2 items. So his energy and intellect, that represents 2 things. They remain undiminished. Let's continue. He has strengthened his hold on the Republican race and remains the front runner to face Joe Biden again next year. The front runner, so this is a noun, and as a noun, you need an article. The front runner is the one most likely to win. So Donald Trump, is the front runner to face Joe Biden. That doesn't mean he's the most likely to win the 2024 election, but he's the most likely to win the nomination in his party to compete against Joe Biden. So that's where he's the front runner. He remains the front runner to face Joe Biden again next year in the 2024 election. Remember, the 2024 election. So here's another example with front runner, because you can use this outside of politics. Because it's most likely to win, you can win a race, win a competition, win a job, in terms of an interview process. You can win many different things. So you can use this expression, the front runner, in different contexts. So let's say there's a job interview process. We interviewed 20 people for the position and Anna's the front runner, which means right now Anna is the most likely to win, but that doesn't mean she will win. It's certainly possible that they choose another candidate, but the odds are in Anna's favor. So if you're betting, you can bet on Anna. And that's the end of the article. So what I'll do now is I'll go to the top and I'll read the article from start to finish. And this time you can focus on my pronunciation. I'll do that now. Trump indictments, a very simple guide to his 4 big legal cases. Former President Donald Trump is facing dozens of criminal charges and will go on trial several times in the next 18 months. His legal problems are mounting as he campaigns to become president again in the 2024 election. Here's a guide to what's going on. On Monday night, a prosecutor in the U.S. state of Georgia laid out 13 charges against Trump in a document called an indictment. It's his 4th indictment of the year. He is accused of engaging in a conspiracy to steal votes cast in 2020 for Democrat Joe Biden. It also accuses him of repeatedly airing the false claim he had won that election. The prosecutor said these lies had fueled his supporters to attack the U.S. Capitol in January 2021, violence which made headlines around the world. Can Trump still run for president? Yes, there's nothing in the U.S. Constitution to prevent Trump from continuing his election campaign. But there are practical considerations. Trials can last for weeks, and he will be required to sit in court throughout. All this would be a major drain on his time, energy, and election cash at a time when he would prefer to be holding rallies and meeting voters. His support remains undiminished. However, he has strengthened his hold on the Republican race and remains the front runner to face Joe Biden again next year.
Do you want me to make more lessons about the 2024 election? If you do, then put 2024 in the comments so I know this is a topic that interests you. And of course, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with your friends so you're updated every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And I think that you should watch this lesson about Donald Trump right now.